Hey, shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to By His Grace Marriage Ministry Podcast. My name's Amanda, and I welcome you to today's episode. Today's episode, I'm going to just be sharing my heart. I'm going to be transparent in this episode. I'm going to be sharing a trial that I am currently going through. And I'm also going to be sharing some quick updates on the podcast, mainly with the set apart audio scriptures, and also a few little updates in between, just in general. In regards to the podcast, I've received a few questions via email, and I'm going to go ahead and answer those questions here in this episode. And I will also email you back if you sent me a question. Just please bear with me, and I will get to those as soon as possible. So this is today's episode. And yeah, so real quick, I want to start by updating just a few general things with the podcast. I've had some various questions. I think mainly from those of you that have been listening to the podcast since the beginning. You've probably noticed some changes that have happened, and that is due to just changes that happen with the technology, the platform being used to record and release these episodes, and so on. So there's been quite a few things, and in a fairly recent episode, I explained how I was really enduring a lot of technical difficulties and challenges to the point that I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to continue the podcast because things had changed. And then, I'm just going to be honest. I don't have up to date technology. I don't have a lot of technology. I am literally recording this podcast through my laptop, which is pretty old. We had to store our computer when we moved because we moved to a smaller apartment. So essentially, we had to just kind of minimize. So now we just have laptops and phone. And my iPhone is very, very old. Just to give you all an idea, I am using an iPhone SE. I think that's what it's called. I am very much behind in the technology world, mainly because that's just what I choose, but also because it's really not within our budget right now to have just up to date or, you know, just whatever technology is going on right now or devices right now today. So that just doesn't fit in our budget right now. So please bear with me with that. When they made the changes to the platform that I was utilizing for the podcast, it changed so many things. And what they changed it to also has a lot of glitches. It's new, so I think they're still working out the bugs and kinks and things like that. And so it's been quite a journey concerning that. And I've had to learn as these changes have happened. So it's part of the reason why I wasn't doing too many episodes there for some time because I was trying to adjust to the changes. I was praying because I didn't know if my devices were compatible with the new platform. And yeah, I actually just found out that my laptop is not compatible for the platform that I'm using. So I'm having to use my phone. And that has not been easy. So with that being said, I apologize if the audio isn't the best quality or if you hear any background noises at some point. I really try my best to record these episodes from a professional aspect, but that doesn't always happen because I'm not a professional and I don't have professional equipment and I'm not in a professional atmosphere. I'm recording from my home, which is an apartment, and I have neighbors all around me. And even if I try recording during the day, there's still some kind of background noise going on. That's just apartment living. I'm sure some of you understand that. And again, I'm using, very simple, basic devices. I'm not in any way using anything really professional. Um, and I just, I feel like this podcast is my ministry and I want to be obedient in what I feel Yah has called me to. And I want to bring the word of Yah to those who want to listen. And I want to bring, knowledge and wisdom of marriage and relationships and family, Yahuwah's way, to those that want to listen. And I realize that there's many, many people out there that are doing very, very similar things. There are many ministries out there. There are many YouTube channels and podcasts. I know that I'm one in many, but I still feel called and led to do this work where I can. And it's simple and humble. You're not going to get professional and or anything like that. So for those of you that have stuck around in supporting this podcast and listening to it and things like that, thank you so much from my heart. And that's not even really what it's about. The whole point is just to get, again, Yah's word out there, and knowledge and wisdom pertaining to relationships, marriages, and families, that are alongside the scriptures, just to get that out there to those that need to hear it. So but yeah, this isn't a professional podcast, and I do apologize to anyone that maybe have found things wrong in it. I do apologize if there's background noise or the audio quality isn't good, or I stumble or stutter. I'm just being real and transparent with you all, and I'm doing the best that I can. So also, I received a question. Someone asked me, and I was waiting for somebody to ask me this because this was a huge change. I made a difference. But for I think 2 years of my podcast, and for more than half of the episodes, there was always music in the background of the episodes, and now there's not. Yes, this was a change that came along when they changed the platform that I was using to do my podcast. And I was very, very disappointed because I love having the music in the background. Even though I wasn't going to utilize music for scripture reading, just because I didn't want it to distract from the word of Yah, but I was planning to still use music in the background whenever I did marriage words or, anything like that, or even an episode like this, just me talking. Now, I'm sure that the platform has some way to add music, but this platform not only has a lot of glitches, it's very professional, and I just haven't learned it. I've barely learned the basics of how to record and get it published on the podcast. That took me 2 months just to learn that. So I'm sure there's a way to add background music of some kind. I just don't know how to do it. So I don't know, y'all pray for me because I have no idea how to do that. And maybe it just, is as simple as me just taking some time to really explore the studio. But I just haven't had the time. Like I said, I was more focused on being able to record because I literally thought I was not going to be able to do my podcast anymore. I was like, okay, that's it. There's going to be no more. Which, okay. There's a lot of episodes, but I didn't feel like Yahuwah was calling me to stop. So I was really sad. So that was my focal point, was finding out how to record and publish so that the episode was on the podcast and people could hear it. So when I actually finally mastered that, that was a blessing in and of itself. And I was just so thankful. I was praise Yah, because I really didn't know if I was going to get it. So, but yeah, that's why there hasn't been music to any of the episodes for the past few months or several months. There's just been so many changes, and I wasn't going to add music essentially to the audio scriptures just because I didn't want to distract anybody. So that's what's going on with that. All right. So I think that was the general updates that I wanted to do for the podcast. I want to now share some specific updates to the audio scriptures. So I finished the book of Proverbs, praise Yah. And of course, we are still in the book of Psalms because Psalms has like 150 chapters, including the additional 10 that were found, which I've already recorded that episode. So my plan now, so I had talked about a while back that I wasn't sure how exactly I was going to proceed in doing the audio scriptures as far as like the order of the books. So most of you by now know that I started out doing the Apocrypha or the Matmonim, and I've done quite a bit from there. And I'm currently doing the Book of Jashar. And I had said that I was going to leave it to the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, to kind of lead me in what books to do next, because my idea was to do the Apocrypha, most of it, if not all of it, and then go into the 66 canon. But then I ended up starting with like Psalms and Proverbs, and I did Song of Solomon or Song of Songs. So I've kind of jumped all over, and I know some of you may not really like that. And believe me, I'm surprised that this has happened because I'm very OCD, and I probably would have preferred to do everything in order, and it just hasn't gone that way. So, but I did some praying, and what came to me was to go ahead and start. I'm actually going to do 3 different books simultaneously in Yahushua's name. That's the plan. So right now I'm just doing Book of Psalms and Book of Jashar. So what I'm going to start doing, hopefully this weekend, is I'm going to start the Book of Genesis. So I'm going to do one book from the Tanakh, the Old Testament, and then I'm going to do one book from the Brit Hadasha, the New Covenant, the Renewed Covenant. So I'm going to be starting the book of Genesis, and then I'm going to be starting the book of Matthew, like that simultaneously, and that's how I'm going to move forward. So, Genesis, then when Genesis is finished, the book of Exodus. And then in the Brit Hadasha, when Matthew's finished, the next one will be, Mark, and so on and so forth. So that is the plan. So it's going to be one book from the Tanakh, one book from the Brit Hadasha, one book from the Apocrypha, and then one book from like the prophets, or, I know that's still technically the Tanakh, but when Psalms is finished, then I won't do any more. It'll just be Tanakh, Brit Hadasha, and Apocrypha. So that is what it's going to look like moving forward with the audio scriptures. It'll be those 3 sections, so a book from each one. And I will go in order. So there will be no more jumping around. And as far as I'm concerned, after the book of Jashar, I don't know what will come next as far as from the Apocrypha. I will have to see and pray about that. I was thinking about like the book of Esdras. I'm not really sure yet what's going to happen with that. So, but anyways, that's the update with that for now. In Yahushua's name, I want to get started with that as soon as I can. Again, I'm trying to be more devoted to the podcast as much as I can while balancing everything else. But of course, there are I must prioritize things. But I've noticed that I've had time on the Sabbath, which I had to pray about that because I was like, yeah, is this considered working? Because if it is, I don't want to break the Sabbath by doing work when I should be resting and focusing on you. But my ministry, I don't really view my ministry, my podcast as work, essentially. I feel it's just serving him and serving all of you. And what better thing to do on the Sabbath than, reading the word of Yah and just getting it out there to other people. So I felt good with doing that if I had the time to, because on Sabbath, we do Torah portion, Shabbat gathering, and things like that. I have my own things that I do on the Shabbat, but I really wanted to incorporate reading the word of Yah out there, just getting it out there. and things like that. So that's where I find I have more time to record, and sometimes I'll be able to do from 2 separate books, get them recorded and get them published, if not that day, then the next day. So praise be to the Most High. So that's what's going on with the podcast, with the audio scriptures, and so on. I pray that it's been a blessing to you all so far. And also, I just want to say a reminder, I know I did a separate episode on this. Please let people know that this podcast, if it's something they're interested in, is also on YouTube. This is not at all what it's about, but I would love to just get the podcast on YouTube out there. So please, if you have any family or friends or know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please let them know it's also on YouTube. They can subscribe, like, share, whatever. And that way also, so that it gets out there as well. I've made all the episodes public, so it's not just to people that are only subscribed. Anybody should be able to find it. So I just wanted to share that again, that the podcast is on YouTube for anybody who would like to hear it on YouTube. I know it's not really a huge difference. And again, maybe in the near future, Yah willing, and if that's his purpose, maybe there will start being some videos moving forward. I don't know yet, but we'll see. That's an entirely different direction. So we'll see moving forward. So anyways, that's everything that I wanted to share as far as updates and things like that concerning the podcast. So now I want to go ahead and go into just sharing my heart on a matter, a situation that I currently have going on in my personal life. And normally I wouldn't share these kinds of things. I've done this a couple of times in the past on this podcast, not too many times, but a couple, where I have shared my heart with certain matters. And I actually just did this recently when I shared an episode about the dangers of infatuation and lust, and I shared my story about a situation very similar to that, that has really affected my life in a big way. And that was really hard for me to do, but I did it because I felt, it might be able to help somebody out there. It went along with the series that I had shared that I have been saying is so important, that I wish everybody would take the time to listen to these episodes, whether you're single or married, because I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this is a big, big way. One of the biggest ways that Hasatan is destroying people's lives. There are many other ways that he can do that, but this is a really big one, and a really hard one to overcome. And so that's what I want to share with you all in this episode, is something else that's happened because of that situation. And again, this is not something I normally do, but I just feel led to do this, also because I'm going to be doing something for the first time as well. I actually introduced this about a year or so ago to the podcast. I've seen many ministries do this, many churches, YouTube channels where they'll say, hey, if you want to support this ministry, if you want to support this channel or support our organization or our church, many people will just put the opportunity out there for donations. Now, I have never really been one to ask for donations. I've always had, the mindset of, if it's Yahuwah's will, he will provide. I don't really need to ask people for donations. Now, I have humbled myself many times in my personal life, and I've had to go to, an assembly or family member or friend and just kind of explain my situation and just put it in Yah's hands and prayed, like, if it's your will, touch their hearts and they will feel led to help. But I never really liked to ask for donations or anything like that. Now, like I said, about a year ago or so for this podcast, I felt led to say, hey, if anybody wants to support this podcast, here's how you can do that. And, I did that for a while. And then after some time, I just decided, I really just don't want to do that. So I just kind of left it at that. The reason why I bring that up is because after I explain what's going on I will be making a mention that if anybody feels led by the Ruach HaKodesh to, if it's on their heart to help in this season, it will be welcomed, because what I'm getting ready to share really just came out of nowhere. And, even though we have been putting it in prayer and surrendering it to Yah, we're still unsure on how the situation is going to go and how Yahuwah sees fit to handle it or what he wants us to do. But I'm just going to throw it out there for, just to see if maybe that might be a way that Yahuwah may provide concerning the situation. So anyways, so I shared recently my personal story on a situation that I've been dealing with for about a year now, on and off, with, again, the dangers of infatuation and lust. Long story short, if you haven't listened to the episode, and if you would like to, please go back and listen to it. But I live in an apartment complex, and I ended up befriending someone that I just never should have went there. And he is the maintenance tech to this apartment complex, so he works here, and he also lives here as well. So he's here 24/7. And unfortunately, he ended up becoming infatuated with me to the point that things got very unstable, very unhealthy. And this individual would, stalk me, harass, and then he would actually harass, friends and neighbors of mine, basically whoever he saw around me or spending time with me. He would lash out at these individuals, and, it's gotten to the point where, I've had to contact, police authorities. I've had to make 2 separate complaints to our leasing office. And currently right now we're in a situation where basically what's going on is all those complaints have gone to higher up. So it's supposedly, and I say supposedly because unfortunately the corporate that owns this apartment complex are, they're not good people. They're not good people at all. And that would take a whole other episode to explain why I say that. But they're not good people. They're very dishonest people. But they told us supposedly that their HR department and their legal team they're reviewing the situation, supposedly. So I wasn't in contact with upper management for some time. I just heard from this person a few days ago where she basically explained what I just said, that they are currently still reviewing it, which doesn't really make sense to myself or my friends that are involved who also live here, because it's been over a month and we know that it shouldn't take that long to review this type of situation. And since there really wasn't a whole lot of evidence to go off of, or a lot of just things in general, we feel that maybe they're just delaying it, and that more than likely they're probably going to keep this individual here instead of terminating him. Now, the other situation with this individual, and why at times I have felt unsafe, is this individual is an alcoholic as well. He has a severe drinking problem. And the reason why I mention that is because not only could it pose a danger to me and these other individuals, but really to anybody living here, because again, he is the maintenance tech, which also means that, this person has access to whomever's apartment. But when you take someone who is unstable, mentally and emotionally, and they have a drinking problem, that's just not a good mix. And so we really can't understand why that right there wouldn't be grounds of terminating him. Now, I understand they need, proof, right? That's just how our country is. They need, in our justice system, right? Like, there has to be proof. And unfortunately, other than just like messages that have gone back and forth and letters that he wrote me at some point, I really don't have a way to prove, and neither do my neighbors, my friends, to prove that this person has stalked, has harassed. And in fact, when we told, and I mentioned this in the episode, when we reported to the police what he had done to my neighbors, all they did was try to talk with him. But basically, and of course the individual denied everything. But, they basically told us that it's not really considered harassment until he threatens our lives, which to me is crazy. It's like, how can you not see the warning signs? And I feel like this is one of the big reasons of why so many women sadly are killed, because they're not being taken seriously when they come into situations like this. And I got to the point, brothers, sisters, I got, kind of paranoid to the point where, when I would be home by myself, if I would like shower or something, I would get out of the shower and I would kind of feel a little uneasy, and I would kind of look around my apartment to make sure that while I was showering, this person didn't come in. Or if I left and came home, I would look around my apartment to make sure this individual didn't come in and is waiting for me to do something, out of anger, out of obsession, and, whatever. So it's gotten pretty severe, but we feel that, if it's taken this long, and on top of that, this individual, the whole entire time, has still been working here. The only thing they did was they were like, because me and the other people he involved, we live in the same apartment building. There's 3 buildings. And so all they did was they were just like, okay, he's not allowed in that building anymore. Only the other maintenance worker can go in this building. And that's what they've done. You know, does it stop him per se if he really wanted to come in here and do whatever? Of course not. Praise be to the Most High, he hasn't done anything since late December. There hasn't been any situations, but he's still sent my stocks and so on. So, but we feel at this point, because it's taking so long, that, and it really comes down to a he said, she said situation, they're more than likely going to keep this individual here, which I've been praying a lot about that, just asking the Father to please help me in what to do. Because we just moved into this apartment. We transferred apartments. Yahuwah didn't open the door for us to move to a different area. For some reason, we ended up being here for another year. And again, our lease doesn't end till like October. So, fall time, autumn time. So we have quite a bit of time here. And, we can't go anywhere else. We can't afford to go anywhere else. Like I said, Yahuwah didn't open the door for us to move. And so here we are. And if this individual continues to be here, that's a whole other thing that, been really, really praying about very much. But anyways, another thing that occurred is, I think the week before last, there was a notice on our door. And when I read it, I just couldn't believe it. And my first thought was, okay, if they're planning to keep this individual here because they want to keep this employee, now they're going to try to get rid of us. And so the notice that was on the door was basically saying that we owe $500. And all they said was it needed to be paid by the 14th of February of this month, or else we would start getting late fees, and then it would more than likely probably lead to an eviction. Now, I was completely blown away because I'm like, where does this balance even come from? We just transferred apartments. We didn't know if it was coming from from our former apartments, or if they're just saying this is money we owe. Now, we know we don't owe any money because we have everything up to date. And we know that we left our former apartment in great condition. No damages, no uncleanliness, nothing like that. In fact, the people that helped us move even said, wow, this apartment looks great, and you were here 5.5 years. And so then, with this whole issue with the maintenance employee, we don't have very good, clear communication with the office staff, because the office staff, we feel, is siding with the employee. So we haven't really even been able to get a clear understanding of where this charge is coming from. And of course, we're going to try to fight it, or let Yahuwah go before us and fight it, because it's not right. But we've talked to our assembly about this. They have been praying for us as well. And just seeing what Yahuwah wants us to do. What's the next step? If he's going to open the door for us to, leave and get out of here, especially get away from that situation, or what's going to happen. But we don't want to get to a point where we're going to be evicted and then we have absolutely nowhere to go. And we do feel that they are doing this because they are trying to get rid of us so that they can keep the employee. We feel that they are favoring with him and want to keep him here. And so they figured the best way to end the problem is then to get rid of the other people that are a part of this problem. Now, I also say that because then a few days later, the other individuals, my neighbors, my friends that have been involved in the situation because of the maintenance employee, then they received a violation of their lease on their door. And the violation of their lease is not accurate. We are very confused as to why they received that. And the only thing we could all think of is it is a ploy to get both households out of here because of the situation concerning the maintenance employee. And it's wrong. It's very wrong and it's very unjust. Right now, those individuals, my friends, they are, working on trying to understand, and the thing is their lease is coming up, so they're actually supposed to renew. And right now they're not even sure if they're going to be able to or not. And the leasing staff here is just also very unprofessional and just very much like the corporate. And it's unjust, brothers and sisters. And, much of Yahuwah's people are going through these trials and these afflictions. The enemy, Hasatan, is really wearing down the saints, like the scripture in Daniel. He's really wearing down the saints because he knows that he doesn't have much time left. And, even just with families within our assembly and within the body of Mashiach, so many families, so many individuals are facing similar things like this, where they're going through just trials after trials or unjust situations and, just all of these things. Now, and we know that Yahuwah will come through and unless he allows it to happen. And then we know that it's for a reason. But I'm just baffled. We just moved in here. I never thought that the situation with this individual would have blown up to this degree, and now we're facing this. And it just seems like we don't get out of one thing fully, and then there's another issue. And again, I normally do not share my personal life here on my podcast unless it's pertaining to the word that I'm giving in the episode. But I'm just sharing this, brothers and sisters, because I'm at a loss for words with this situation. It is teaching me to surrender everything to Yahuwah in prayer and to just trust him. But at the same time, in the same way we've gone to our assembly and have shared with them what I've shared with you, and they're praying for us and things like that. It's the same thing I'm doing here to those of you that support and follow this podcast. If you feel in your heart, if you feel led by the Ruach to please pray concerning this situation, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it so, so much. I am in desperate need of prayers because this is just such an unjust situation. And I've not really faced something to this degree like this. I have been through a lot, but this is a new one for me. And I keep praying to you, whatever's your will, your will be done. However you want to justify the situation with this individual and this place, your will be done. But I've just never really gone through something like this. And honestly, we really don't have the money. We do not have what they're asking, the $500 to pay by the date they've given us. It's just not possible right now for us. So, and the thing is, we feel we shouldn't have to pay it because we don't owe it. We feel it's being done to spite us and to, I guess, eventually get us out of here. I don't really know. But you know what? Yahuwah sees and hears all, and he will justify things in his timing and in the way he sees fit. However, I am going to throw out there as well, yes, please pray for us if you feel led. Pray for the situation. But if any of you feel led at all to help financially, and again, this is something I don't normally do. This is even a bit out of my comfort zone because I just normally don't do this. But if any of you feel led to help out concerning the situation, I will leave my Cash App and PayPal information in the description of this episode, or please email me. And my email is in the ministry email is in all the descriptions of the episodes. And reach out to me first if you need to talk to me a little bit more, or whatever. But I believe that information there, brothers and sisters, if you all feel led. And again, if not, that is okay. Again, I'm not accustomed to doing something like this, but in this situation, I just feel led to just throw that out there. And again, it's completely out of my comfort zone. But that is what is going on right now. And again, it's teaching us to persevere, to just really have belief, to have faith in the Most High, and to allow Him to go before us concerning the situation, because we really feel it's an unjust situation. And we know that Yahuwah sees this. And so we're really just trusting in Him to, bring to light the things that need to be brought out of the dark, and, to make things right. But, just going to go ahead and throw that out there for anybody that may feel led concerning the situation. So, yeah, it's a new one for me. But again, this is why I spoke so much about, just the dangers of, I think I've talked about this, dangers of toxic people, unhealthy people, the dangers of attraction, infatuation, lust. We have to guard ourselves, brothers and sisters, around many people. Yes, as believers, we are called to love one another, to bear one another's burdens, to minister to those who don't know Yahuwah and Yahushua, to bring them the good news. But there are also so many people out there who are toxic, who are unhealthy, who are wicked, and they're choosing to be this way, and we must be careful. We must guard ourselves against people like this, so that we don't get caught up into these kinds of situations. Now, especially for those of us that are choosing to walk in the way and the truth and the life, the enemy is always going to try to attack us, and he's going to try to surround us and bring us, try to connect us with wickedness. And we're called to be set apart from the world and from non-believers, and I know people are a bit confused about that because Christianity teaches this in error. Yes, we are to love everybody and we are to try to help, but we also need to have healthy boundaries, and we need to guard ourselves and our families and our loved ones. And, we need to know when to put a distance and to separate ourselves, or to set ourselves apart from these types of things. And I wish that I would have seen that with this individual, and I didn't, because there are people out there that can be really good at masking these things or hiding these things. And so, again, this is why it's so important to pray. And I realized, and I think I shared this in the very final episode of the series of The Dangers of Infatuation and Lust, I read from a book that I said, I wish I would have had this book when I had first met this individual, because it would have helped me and guided me to know what to do, and to do it more, and to do it accurately. I didn't pray enough. I didn't really fast enough. I didn't continuously seek the Father in prayer, and I was blinded, and I saw the red flags a little bit too late, and when I tried to disconnect myself, when I tried to put a separation, it ended up backfiring to where this individual reacted in a very unhealthy way, and in a very obsessive way. And it's even dragged other people into it just for being around me, so it's a devastating situation, and this is why I say, and Hollywood has even done a couple of movies very similar to what I just described. And so we really need to be alert, and again, any of you listening to this, if you haven't listened to that series I've done, there's now 5 episodes entitled, they're titled The Dangers of Infatuation and Lust. There's 3 episodes back to back, I think, where part 1, part 2, part 3, where I shared various accounts from the scriptures about this. And then the 4th one is me sharing my personal story, my personal experience. And then the 5th one is me reading some additional resources and things like that concerning this. So it's very serious, brothers and sisters, and I don't want to see it happen to anybody else. But that's where I'm at with this situation, and yeah, it's it's not really good. But I am trusting in the Most High to bring me out of this, to go before us, and just justify and vindicate us, and in the way that He sees fit, and bring justice however He sees fit. So, but if any of you feel led to pray about the situation, I would greatly appreciate that from my heart. And if any of you feel led to help out financially, because again, even though we shouldn't, we may still have to pay this balance in order for us to avoid eviction. That's very possible that that's where this is going to lead. So, if any of you feel led to help, I will leave that information in the description. And, many blessings and shalom to you, and, big thank yous from our hearts. Again, this is not easy for us to share or ask, but we thank you so much. And we love you all for just uniting with us in prayer and in help if that's what you feel led to do. So, all right, that is everything that I wanted to share from my heart and updates concerning the podcast. Again, if you have any questions or concerns, need prayer requests, anything like that, advice, please email me at the ministry email. It's by His Grace Marriage, or sorry, I had to change it, by His Grace Ministry 23 at gmail.com, and that'll be in the description below. And I will also leave other information as well. So, all right, that is everything. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk with you in the next episode. Shalom.